Welcome back to the Through the Lane podcast, NFL Draft Edition. Last week we covered risers and fallers of the Senior Bowl. From the Senior Bowl, this week we're going to cover my 2.0 mock draft and some just guys I think are rising and stuff like that. In today's episode, it shouldn't be too long, but we'll see. So my mock draft, and I'll have it either here or here on the thing. I guess Cam Ward to the Titans. Oh, this will be the top 10. Cam Ward to the Titans, Adil Carter to the Browns, Shedeur to the Giants, Will Campbell to the Patriots, Mason Graham to the Jags, Travis Hunter to the Raiders, Will Johnson to the Jets, Tedero McMillan to the Panthers, Malachi Starks to the Saints, and then the Bears get Armand Membu, and then you see the rest going down. And so the big thing that stands out on this is Travis Hunter. And I was watching the Todd McShay podcast with Mitch. He calls him Mitch, and he gave up the good argument of there's not a really good fit for Travis Hunter, right? So you look at and I'm going to explain this. The reason why Titans, right? You've got Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley, and the other guy that led the team in touchdown catches, right? So he doesn't fit as a receiver. Corner, kinda, but their more pressing need is quarterback. They've got to get the quarterback. Unless they are blown away by Cam Ward, and then they probably would trade back, probably with the Raiders, to 6. Then, Travis Hunter isn't going there. Then you look at the Browns. And let me bring up the thing, because I don't think they have a corner. I don't think they have a need at corner, right? They don't need a receiver, really. They've got some young receivers. Jerry Jeudy did a great job this year developing, showing on the promise that they had been around him for a while. Cedric Tillman looks good. Maybe you add a third receiver. But again, you can add that down the line. But also, you have the thing with Myles Garrett, where he requested a trade. And so you have to look on, if you trade for him, do you replace him? And we'll kind of go through what that might look like and what may change in this draft if you were to, say, trade him as the Browns. If I can get this to minimize. Oh, crap. We'll run it like this. So, looking at, the Browns don't really need a corner. Right, you've got Grant Delpit, Martin Emerson, and Greg Newsome. I mean, you could possibly, get better on the margins, but that isn't like a crushing need. You're going to have to fix pass rusher. And the best way to do it is to go out and get Abdul Carter, who I think is the best player in the draft above Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, he's not consistent enough and doesn't blow me away a lot. Abdul Carter, watching the few little games I did, he is a dog. He is fast, he's strong, and he was also hurt, which is surprising to see him do that good. I think he had a banged up shoulder. So I'm really sold on Abdul Carter. Then you go to the Giants, right? Giants need a quarterback, and they're in love with Shedeur. So they're going to take Shedeur, and if Cam Ward falls to them, then they're taking Cam Ward, right? So they're taking quarterback, obviously. Patriots, right? They've got a good cornerback room. Jack Jones, I think, is an opposite corner. And then you have Gonzalez. Receiver, yes, they need work. But what can you do, right? And I'm about to hit on the Super Bowl. They just passed up. What do you do with that? I think you go lineman, offensive lineman, because you have to protect the quarterback. And we saw this Sunday that the trenches are, I think, the most valuable positions in football before quarterback. Because you saw what can happen if your offensive line's a little shaky against a really good defensive line, which I think a defensive line is more important than a bad offensive line more important than a quarterback, because you saw a great defensive line completely taking Mahomes out of the game. They can't run the ball. They just neutralized it. The Eagles' defensive line was suffocating because you had Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Milton Williams, Mario Jomo, Jalix Hunt. I mean, a deep, deep unit. And you just saw that overwhelmed. Joe Thuney, and this is big, right? So we just got past Senior Bowl, and I learned something with it. It was the arm length and how important that is. And you saw it with Joe Thuney. If you watch Joe Thuney, at left tackle, right? He's a guard by trade for a reason. He has shorter arms. He doesn't have long enough arms to be a tackle, but he's an average tackle, I guess, but not a good one. You know, you can get by with him. They were just bull rushing him. They went straight at him, and if you watched it every time, the guy that was getting his hands on first was the defensive end. Milt Williams, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith. I mean, they were engaging Joe Thuney before Joe Thuney could engage with him, and then Joe Thuney's on his heels getting backed up in Mahomes' lap. And it's the reason why at 32, I have them taking Josh Simmons. Because I think he's the best pure tackle, and he's great at left tackle. Now, he's coming off injury, but, I mean, at this point, I mean, you could take Ariante Ersuri, but again, you're taking on a risk. I think you got to hit probably a guy that probably won't have a humongous ceiling, but has a very high floor, and will get the job done for you. And then you just got to plug that hole. Especially with Trey Smith moving, you move Joe Thuney back to guard, then, you know, you deal with it. Maybe you go Gray Zabel if he falls past the Eagles, but I have him at the Eagles because Mekhi Becton is scheduled to be a free agent. But I'm kind of changing on that, but we'll go back. I'll explain that later. We're going to go back to the top 5, okay? So, Patriots, they need someone to block for Drake May. Drake May is getting murdered. T. Higgins is going to be a free agent. Deebo Samuels is requested a trade. So you've got already 2 guys who are going to be on the market. And let's look at the free agents, right? Let's look at this. The receiver class. You know, you got T. Higgins. Chris Godwin would be great. You get Chris Godwin, then you pair him up with a young receiver to help mentor. You got Amari Cooper, who I think will probably end up staying with the Bills. Stephon Diggs, that would be huge. DeAndre Hopkins, another veteran. Marquise Brown. Darius Slayton. I think Slayton would be a good addition. You know, Mike Williams, I don't think it would be good. Dante Johnson, no. Keenan Allen, maybe. They probably have to go the veteran route to help kind of coach Drake May, be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and then also have a young receiver, bring him along. Unless you just go for the home run move and you sign T. Higgins. T. Higgins. I'm not high on Deebo as a pure receiver. I think he's more of a gadget player, jet sweep him, you know, bring him around, trick plays. As a pure receiver, I'm not high on him. He had 44 yards a game. We'll say 45 yards a game this year on average, and I'm just not high on that. I'm not huge on it. So I think T. Higgins is the guy they go out and get, and then they go lineman with the best offensive lineman in this class, Will Campbell. There's questions around, is he a guard, is he a tackle? I don't give 2 rips. You need to protect Drake May. It's the reason why they started him so late in the year, and it probably helped with some of the interceptions as well as getting better receivers, right? Then you go to 5, right? Then you've got Jacksonville. And let's look, because they've got their receivers kind of. They've got Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis and Sutton. So then you look at corner. Do they need a corner? Tyson Campbell, Jerrion Jones, and Montieric Brown. So yes, they could use another corner and then package him in. But do I think they will do that? No. No, because you got to get more weapons. I think they go Mason Graham, because Mason Graham is just a great talent. I think, for me, Travis Hunter is the second best player in this draft behind Abdul Carter, but it's the fit. And he wants to play both ways, so you have to have a team that isn't going to have to rush him, can kind of take their time, develop him. They don't need him, right? Like they don't have to have him. Or they're willing to just sit back, take their time, work with him. And that's why I have him going to the Raiders, right? Because the Raiders, they don't have a quarterback, okay? The secondary needs work. They're going to have a lot of free agents go, so he can kind of step in, be CB1, and then put in, and he can be receiver 1, receiver 2, but you have Brock Bowers as your security blanket, so you don't have to rely on him every play. And then they bring in a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, or, you know, they go out and they draft a Dylan Gabriel, or they bring in a Ryan Tannehill, or, you know, Sam Darnold, or they go trade for, you know, Joe Milton, who I'm extremely high on, and I would love to see where he goes. Then there's no pressure on Travis Hunter, right? If you put him in either of these situations, he has to, like, the clock's speeding up outside the Giants, but, I mean, again, the Giants is just a terrible situation. If he's on the Patriots, he's got to provide. He's got to provide. He's got to provide. If he goes to the Browns, got to provide. And he's kind of shadowed. You need him to be like the number one receiver to where he can get reps in and be number one corner so he can learn. Just game time. And there's no pressure. The Raiders are a few years away, kind of like the Browns, but the Browns need a quarterback, and Myles Garrett's ready to go, right? So I think Travis Hunter, he could go, I mean, realistically, he could go 5, but I think he goes 6. Or, I mean, maybe 2 to the Browns if they want to get frisky with it, but outside of that, I mean, I don't see the Giants taking him. I don't see if whoever gets number 1 taking him, because number 1's going to go to a team that needs a quarterback. And so then you got to look at as the Browns, Jags, and Raiders. I think both of them pass on for more NFL-ready players at that one position. I think Travis Hunter's better at corner, and he's going to need work. It's going to be an experiment. And are you willing to have the patience and take time to experiment with Travis Hunter because he wants to play corner and receiver? And I think that you just go with Tom Brady's group at the Raiders, and I think it's just the best. Jets, corner, I think you got to pair someone up alongside. You're losing DJ Reed alongside Sauce Gardner. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if McMillan went to the Raiders if Hunter wasn't there. The Jets, with Garrett Wilson's availability up in the air, and came out this week, Devondre Adams isn't coming back, and Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went 6 or 7. But a team that needs him badly, and I think the team that kind of shakes out, it goes to the Panthers. He goes to the Panthers. I love him going to the Panthers. Man, the Panthers are they lack so much talent in the receiving core. I mean, you have Leggett and you have Adam Thielen. Thielen's older. Leggett's the developmental project. So you bring in McMillan, who looks great as an X, and you just throw him out there. And now Leggett's your 2, and he's your speedster, and then you've got your physical threat with Bryce Young, who's more of a game manager. And I think it'd work out well with him. And then Thielen being your 3, being your veteran towards the guys. Right? Then the Saints, they're devoid of talent. I mean, they're old. And they're so far up the cap that, I mean, no matter what they do, it's going to be tragic. And then tackle is a big need for the Bears. They get my number 2 tackle, Armand Membu. I love Armand Membu. Dude's powerful, physical. He's got some work that needs to be done. But, I mean, he's got all pro level potential as a tackle, and I love it. Then 49ers. Well, some people have them taking a running back, but I think right now you're in win now mode, right? Christian McCaffrey's getting older. Ayuk's gonna injuries. Brock Purdy's about to get paid, so you've got to now capitalize. You bring in Walter Nolan. They've lost Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Javon Hargrave's about to leave. And he's coming off a pec injury. You've now got to... Also, they lost Solomon Thomas. That was a few years ago. You've got to replenish the middle of the defensive line. I think after we saw what the Eagles done with that blueprint, replenish the defensive line, bring in Walter Nolan, who you can then pair against with Leonard Floyd if he comes back, Nick Bosa, and then him in the middle. And then, Javon Hargrave, who can kind of just rotate in with them. Then, Gentry to the Cowboys. Miami, Kelvin Banks taking Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks, I think, has a high floor, low ceiling. But I love him going to the Dolphins because they need offensive line help. I mean, they've got a stacked offensive core. They trade Tyreek Hill. They're not going to get a first because of the down year. But I think they could, get some picks, take some receivers, potentially trade for a receiver at some point, and move forward. Then now, you're coming into Myles Garrett territory here with the Cardinals, with the Falcons, the Bengals, and Tampa, and then, looking it down here, and the Lions. The Lions as well. Just going to a contender. But right now, I have, the Colts taking Tyler Warren. They need receiving help. They need a safety blanket for Anthony Richardson. I think Tyler Warren would be great for it. Then I have the Falcons taking Mike Green, and he's rising. And I think Mike Green is just a hell of a player, hell of a defensive end. He's fast, physical, he's going to be a star. And the Falcons need pass rushing so bad. They've got the offensive line. They've got the secondary. They've got the offensive weapons. They've got the quarterback. You just need to be able to rush the passer and suffocate a team. And again, I've said this before. The Eagles did it. They got their quarterback and they started investing, right? The big three three of the big four or five, Milton Williams, were drafted in the past 3 years, right? Jordan Davis in 2021, 2022, I think, and Georgia just won their title. Then you went Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith in the first round the next year. And then you went Mario Ajomo and Jalen Hunks in those 2 years. Jalen Hunt last year. Mario Ajomo, I think the year before. Milton Williams was part of, I think, the Jalen Hurts class. No, the Devontae Adams class. And Josh Sweat's been there for since 2018. So they went in and they started filling up, getting this elite pass rush. The Falcons got to do that now. They need a pass rush. They need to be able to go after passers, because guys are able to just sit back and pick apart that team. They need it. And I think them and the Lions are probably the best two teams to go out and trade for Myles Garrett. If I'm the Falcons, I pony up all the picks. But the thing that the Lions have over them is Hendon Hooker. And he can be the bridge gap. You play him this year. If he works out well, great. You pay him. If he doesn't, guess what? You still suck. You go to a loaded quarterback class next year. You get your quarterback, and you move forward. But you know what you've also gotten? 3 or 4 firsts. And you had a second first-round pick this year, who at the time, I had the Lions taking Jack Sawyer at 28. But you can go out. You can go and get a lineman. Get Gray Zabel, Josh Simmons. Or, add Kenneth Grant to the defensive line. Or go out and you get a Trey Harris. Or, not even Tej Johnson. Trey Harris would be the only one I could see sneaking back up in the first round. But going out and getting, maybe another tackle. Or, if you want to fix the running back position, TreVeyon Henderson. Because TreVeyon Henderson is a guy that could probably sneak up into the first round. And potentially, with not even the Commanders, I don't even see anybody taking him, really, unless they trade back. Unless the Chiefs wanted to. But again, I think the Chiefs need offensive help. Now, why Gray Zabel? And Gray Zabel's listed in this as a tackle, but why Gray Zabel? Because Mekhi Becton is about to be a free agent at guard, and I don't know if they can pay him. They've got a lot of guys. They don't have a lot of guys, but they have some big-name guys that are leaving. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Mekhi Becton, and there's someone else, right? You probably re-sign. Looking at it now, I was focusing more defensively. You could probably bring back, because you could replace him, get Derek Harmon, or go out and get, Cal Kennard in the second round or something. I'll do my second round here probably today. This is being recorded on Tuesday. But, you go and you bring in Gray Zabel, because say you don't want to bring back Mekhi Becton. His price is too high. Gray Zabel is a dog at guard, would fit great, and could probably play center in a pinch, and so Tyler Steen or Landon Dickerson doesn't have to play. So then you fix it, because Tyler Steen is not the guard of the future. He's a good rotational guard. You bring Gray Zabel in, and he's a dog. He's listed as a tackle on here, but he's not going to be a tackle. He's going to play guard. Or maybe you go out and you let Mekhi Becton go. You go out, you draft, a JTT, or a Tyler Williams, or TJ Sanders, or a Derek Harmon, or Deone Walker, or someone of that build, and then in the second round, you go get a Wyatt Williams, or a Tate Ratledge in the second round, because in the second round, you're going to see some tackles and guards fly off the board in pass rushers. I don't think, from 1.0 to 2.0, a lot of quarterbacks disappeared and fallen back in the third round, and I don't think you see a lot of quarterbacks get taken in the second. I think you see them getting taken in the third. The only guy I see potentially taken in the second round, 2 guys, Dillon Gabriel and Jackson Dart. But again, I think recently, Jackson Dart's catching a lot of momentum, and he's flying up the boards, potentially above Shedeur Sanders, due to the ability of him being a more typical quarterback. Shadeur's kind of small, takes too many hits, tries to hit the home run play, and he gets beat up for it instead of checking it down. He's a game manager. I think Dart's drawing the comparison, because I just listened to Todd McShay's podcast today. Dart's drawing the comparison of Drake May, and I can see it, right? He's mobile, big arm, isn't as big of an arm as Drake May, but he's got a cannon. And he fits well. He's a great leader, runs the system well, and it worked out well. The reason Shadeur's smaller, isn't as athletic, he takes too many hits, he holds onto the ball a little too long, but the difference between another guy who I believe holds on the ball too long and Milroe is he completes the passes. Milroe is so errant. Milroe going to the third round because of the accuracy issues. They're so bad. I mean, I was watching Kurt Benkert, talk about it, and he's like, oh, if you fix up his foot, because he starts stacked, like his feet are like this, they're even. If you started like this or this, with one foot behind the other, it fixed a lot of the issues. I think that's a problem. That was one thing that stood out to me is, he's parallel with his feet, no foot's further back, but I don't think that fixes everything. I think it's a little bit more of him in his head. I think his hip doesn't, rotate well with it. He doesn't open up the hip all the way. And of course, he doesn't throw across his body. He throws down. And you see a lot of NFL quarterbacks now throw like this so that their arm comes across, not this. And for whatever reason, I mean, it fixed Josh Allen's problems a lot. He started throwing across, like him going like that, and his arm coming across instead of throwing down. And his accuracy went up, and he just won MVP, right? So he needs work. Now, in this, I have Tyler Booker going to 25. I think I had them taking a tackle. They need help at guard. It's just that simple. They've got some dudes at tackle who I think are going to end up staying. I mean, Laramie Tunsil's one of them. But I think they have someone else that they really like at tackle. And they have like a third-round pick. Blake Fisher, who they took in the second round in 2024. So 2 years ago. Last year, and he ended up starting. So you have Shaq Mason and Titus Howard. Kenyon Green and Kendrick Green both got sacked. Kenyon Green, I think, Titus Howard is a first-round pick from 2019. Wow. But Kenyon Green's a first-round pick from 2022. They just haven't held on to the position as long. Jared Patterson took over Juice Scruggs. You insert Tyler Booker, who's the best pure guard, in there, and you get rid of, Shaq Mason. And then, Kenyon Green and Titus Howard battle it out for the left guard. You fix the offensive line a little bit. And, you go draft a receiver later on or bring one in. Maybe a Keenan Allen. And we'll talk about this later on. A Keenan Allen or something like that. And you help fix CJ Stroud. But a guy had fallen, James Pierce and Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker, because of his positionless, He's going to fall down in the first round. He's a first-round pick, but because of his position's linebacker, but he doesn't really play like a linebacker, off-ball linebacker. He plays more on-ball. Can't really cover. It's kind of a weird position for him, but he would do wonders for the Bucs. James Pierce Jr., he's got to put some more mass on him, and he's got to be able to affect the run more. He kind of goes too far upfield, and when you get hands on him, he kind of just gets cooked. I just don't like. I wasn't a big fan of it. Josh Connery fought. I talked about him being like 3 or 4. I have Kelvin Banks on him. I gotta watch more Kelvin Banks. But Josh Connery going to the Rams. It'd either be him or Kelvin Banks. Not gonna lie. The Rams need a tackle, and having one of those two would help out immensely. Michael Williams is going to the. I'm kind of bouncing around here. Cardinals. They need defensive talent. They need talent in general, but defensive talent. They were, outside of the Falcons, one of the worst pass rushing teams in the NFL. And so they need to get somebody. Michael Williams is a bit of a project, but he is massive talent, and he helps out. I mean, Darius Alexander, I think is his name, is the other guy they drafted last year in the first round. He just didn't pan out. He played a lot. Chop Robinson did better than him. And Chop Robinson was the guy that rose up to for the Dolphins. And we'll see first-round picks fly. I mean, I don't think Deebo Samuel's worth a first-round pick. I don't think Tyreek Hill is worth a first-round pick. I think Myles Garrett's worth a first-round pick, and that will, wherever he goes, if it's to the Lions, then they get 28. If it's to the Falcons, the Browns get 15, and then they can kind of shake it all up. They could go a receiver or whatever. That's going to change a lot of the outlook on things. But, Kenneth Grant, having gone 30 to the Bills, they've got to have some beef up in the middle to just push the pocket upwards. Ed Oliver's getting older. He's kind of injury prone. And let's look at who else is there. Yeah, Daquan Jones. I mean, he would replace Daquan Jones in a heartbeat. And then you have, not even, I'd say a Walmart version of the Eagles' defensive line. They're talented, but they're not there yet. But you've invested a lot of premium picks in the D-line. And I think Kenneth Grant would be a great run stuffer and help them out a lot. But also, Rasul Douglas being a free agent does not help. I think someone else is. They have KJ Hamler. DeMar Hamlin's a free agent, but I think he goes there. I think he helps them out a lot. Again, the Bears, the Lions taking Jack Sawyer. He's the best pass rusher available, and they need pass rushing. Just due to, you saw Zadarius Smith isn't the fix, right? We saw that. He had like a sack and a half to 2 sacks in his time there. Then outside of that, they don't really have anyone outside of Aiden Hutchinson to rush the passer. You need to bring in some more premier talent to help Aiden Hutchinson. And I see, Jack Sawyer, is ticketed towards him. I mean, there's no one else. Kenneth Grant, maybe if you're sold on, but again, you need someone to get after the passer. They stop the run really well. So, maybe Princey Umanmielen, if you want to, move up on him. And we'll kind of see at the combine. He's, again, got a lot of guys, another guy, man, I can't talk, that's catching momentum. Azariah Thomas is another guy catching momentum. Matthew Golden, we'll talk about him in a second, has caught a lot of momentum. A guy that's lost a lot, Cameron Williams. He's fallen down a lot. And Siobhan Reevil, just due to the fact that he tore his ACL, I have him going on here to the Ravens. He can kind of develop, develop, be a fast, twitchy corner that they need to replace Brennan Stevens and to help out the secondary. Their secondary is one of the worst. Now, yes, when Kyle Hamilton moved over back to safety, it fixed a lot of issues. But again, you need some more talent. They've got to be able to do more. I think Siobhan Reevil, especially in the first round, would be a steal. He's first-round talent. It's just due to the injuries. Him and Benjamin Morrison, who I think would be a great fit for the Vikings, just are guys that are going to be, high upside, but injuries. So the injuries are going to have them falling down. Jahdae Barron is my CB3. And the reason why is, dude's physical. He's fast. He's great technique. He could potentially jump Will Johnson. And I would not be surprised. Again, right now is a dead period. Once the combine happens, everything resets and things pick up. And right now the big thing is Jackson Dart in the QB2 battle. And people are selling themselves on him. Milroe did so bad that I think there's no selling themselves on him. It might be a week of the day, draft that people sell themselves on him. Or if he wows at the combine. But Dart is flying up, all right? He is flying up. And Jihad Campbell, potential first-round talent, I just don't see no one taking him. Unless, the Commanders want him. But again, I think the Commanders' massive need, unless they went out and got a Myles Garrett, is receiver. They need offensive weapons. They also need some defensive help. But again, there's so much defensive talent in this second round. I mean, I'm looking at Tankathon here. They haven't taken Jared Ivey. I would take Kyle Kennard or Josiah Stewart with the 31st pick. They also have the Lions taking Isaiah Bond. I don't really get that one. I have them taking, who else here? Marcus Bow or Wyatt Willem to kind of help with the offensive line because they're going to lose somebody on the offensive line. And who is it? I know they're losing somebody. Detroit. Kevin Zeigler. So, yeah, you bring in a Wyatt Williams. He steps up, replaces him, and then there you go. Fix the offensive line's got talent. You get him in the second round, end of the second round. Or Bo, who I think is a guard as well. You put him in there, and it'd be good. I mean, this is an offensive line group that's developed well. I mean, everyone else of Kevin Zeigler has been drafted and developed there. Taylor Decker drafted in 2016 in the first round. Graham Glasnow, 2016 in the third round. Frank Ragnow, first round 2018. And Penei Sewell, first round 2021. Again, so then you put another second rounder in it with Wyatt Williams or, Marcus Bow, or who would be someone else I could see falling? No one, a Tate Ratledge falls to you. I think if Tate Ratledge is there, you take him, you snatch up and get him. But also, yeah, that's maybe an Anthony Belton, but and this is also a deep running back crew as well. Emory Jones, I think maybe a bit of a guard, but as well, I just not sold on him. The Chiefs need massive help at tackle. Tinkathon has Ariante Ursary going to him, and they haven't taken Tyler Booker. But if Tyler Booker falls past the Texans, then yes, you take Tyler Booker if you're the Eagles. But also, free agency happens between now and the draft, so we will find out if they bring back Mekhi Becton. If they bring back Mekhi Becton, they don't go guard. They don't. They go defensive line, maybe secondary. But Kelee Ringo will probably replace Avonte Maddox. Outside of that, the group's studded. I mean, Darius Slay maybe, and because him and Bradbury would retire, and if you view that as a massive need, if you don't trust Kelee Ringo to step in, then yes, you go and you draft. Nick, the kid out of South Carolina. I'm not even going to try to say his name. Azure Thomas would be great. You draft him. Trey Amos, Maxwell Hurston. Because then in that first round pick, you can get that 32nd pick. You can get away with a lot of guys, really, with those two picks. But I'm trying to explain my picks here. Outside of that, I think the Chargers take a tight end, another security blanket. The run heavy team. You get a blocker. You get a guy who is just going to help you out as well. The Steelers, they need a star receiver. I mean, they need someone with George Pickens. You give Justin Fields, George Pickens, Freiermuth, and Abuka, it's game over. And then Calvin Austin somewhere. Broncos, Luther Burden. I mean, maybe they go safety, but Luther Burden would be huge. A young receiver, because Devon Vele came in. Marvin Mims is your slot. Cortland Sutton, I think is his name, is the Y, and then your X is Luther Burden, and you just send them down. I mean, that is an elite group for Bo Nix. I don't think they need much more. Defensively, they're set. I just think they need some more weapons. But Matthew Golden, I love him. I have him at 29 due to his ability to. He's a physical guy. He developed a lot over the past year. He's very physical, great with his hands, jumps up and get it. I love him as a receiver. Really back of the first round, maybe early second if the Wizards. Commanders went up and got someone else. But second round guys, Omari Hampton is a guy that will be early second round. Travion Henderson is a potential first rounder, but I think no one in the back of the first round will take him, so he'll be an early second to a team like, the Jaguars or the Browns or, the Raiders. I think the Raiders really take Travion Henderson. You've got to help the quarterback there. And then, the Raiders go early third. And, on here they got a Milrow. And that's who I was going to say. You take a Milrow, maybe a Quinn Ewers or Kyle McCord or someone that, you could put around, let develop for a year, grow with the receiver, and move forward. Cam Scatterboom. Everyone's hating on Cam Scatterboom, but he is a thumper. He probably will end up being a third-round pick just because of the lack of the scat backiness. But, man, he's a dog, and I love him. I think he would be a great addition. Looking at third round right here, a lot of guys are going to fly off, linebacker-wise. And Elijah Aurora going in the third round on here is atrocious. I think he'd be, a guy that would go in the second round to, a Panthers or, Texans or, Commanders, have him sit behind Zach Ertz for a year. Or you let him replace Travis Kelce. But here they have him taking Xavier Watson. I love that. And then them also taking Josiah Stewart, who would be big. But, someone else. Darius Alexander would be huge. A guy that you could put him at nose in a NASCAR package, which is just speed, third and long. Guys are just going to rush after the passer. Darius Alexander would actually be the perfect pick for the Eagles. If they got him in the second round, it'd be amazing because you can kick him inside, be a 4-3 defensive lineman, or in a 3-4. He plays defensive end. He's fast. I love what I saw at the Senior Bowl. I had him as a riser. But, maybe a Shamar Turner. Elijah Arroyo being a third-round pick in this kind of annoys me. Harold Fanning, I think, fell off a little bit. Ted Johnson, third-round pick is just right for him. I'm probably going to come up with a top 100 now that I know more than I did when I last came up with the top 100. But, I mean, that would be a weekend thing when I have all my homework done. But yeah, it's not going to be super long of an episode. They have Nick Scoren as the first one picking here. Again, I talked about him last week. I just don't have him up that high. Trying to look at someone else I need to explain. Shamar Stewart, just a world beater. And what is he listed as on here? He's 290. You could kick him inside with Miles Murphy and rush up the passer. If Trey Hendrickson. If Trey Hendrickson becomes available, the line, you have one of the two's going to the line. Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson, one of them they're both going to either the Lions or the Falcons. Just they are, unless the Patriots pony up a lot for him. Trey Hendrickson would be cheaper than Myles Garrett, because I think he's older. And how old is he? He's like, what, 31? 30. Yeah, he's 30. He turns 31 in December. So, yeah, I mean, he'd be a great fit. He'd be cheaper because he's on the last year of his deal, and he doesn't have the high upside DPOY. He doesn't have the DPOY in his name like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's also 29. He turned 30 this year. Still got 2 years left on his deal. But I could see that moving, and if so, you'd see a shakeup. We'll say the Falcons get Trey Hendrickson, right? So 15, so that then you have Bengals having 15 and 17. I then have the Bengals taking probably Emeka Buka or, Josh Connery at 15 and 17, then take a pass rusher to replace him. If the Lions give the Browns, their first round pick, then I have the Browns taking, Gray Zabel or Kenneth Grant. Maybe even Matthew Golden, or, let's look here at the second round. And Azure Thomas, or an Amari Hampton. If they got the 20th pick, a Travion Henderson would definitely come off the board then. Maybe a Jihad Campbell. But Donovan Ezeruku, I think, is more of a third-round pick. It's not third-round, second-round pick, sorry. But this episode's not as in-depth. Landon Jackson going to the second round is just terrible. I think he's a third-round pick. There won't be as many receivers in the second round because you're going to see a lot go. Probably the only one that goes is Isaiah Bond and Trey Harris. I forgot Isaiah Bond existed for a bit, but you're going to see a lot of defensive back and defensive linemen and offensive linemen sprinkling one or two quarterbacks. But, yeah. That's all for today's episode. It's a shorter one. Friday's episode should be in the studio, hopefully. I had more plans for today's episode, but it kind of all just left my brain. But, the Eagles. So the Eagles, I already said this, and this is huge, and this is why I think pass rushing is, I think they had the most important, or it's the most pivotal position in football, and we saw it. An elite pass rush can eliminate an elite quarterback and a good offensive line. They suffocated him. They tortured Mahomes. Outside of the fourth quarter, when there was garbage time put up, Mahomes was taken out of the game. And you saw them bully Joe Thuney around because he had shorter arms. Milton Williams, they would, take the edge and pretty much take Josh Sweat, stun him to the inside, and Milton Williams fall around and hit Joe Thuney. And, Joe Thuney, every snap, was in Mahomes' lap because he was so short. They had such short arms. And you saw what a gritty, physical defensive line will do to you. Nolan Smith, there's a, crack splatter, I think it was, where the running, as a linebacker, you spill, have something where you hit the lineman and you force the running back inside a receiver. You go to the flats, or you follow back, so if he comes back, you've got him. And, Nolan Smith hits that tackle, rams into him, and it causes the running back to come back upfield, plays dead, right? And so you saw in such a deep O-line that they were just rotating guys through. I mean, Jalen Hunt and Mario Jomo really did not have to play much at all. And they still made impacts when they did. I mean, let's pull this up. Brandon Graham didn't have to play much because he's coming off a bicep injury. And you just saw that they didn't. He played situationally. But I mean, yeah. There was just no need. They were rotating through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys on that defensive front. And it was just harassing quarterback. It was just harassing Mahomes. And it was, I mean, Mahomes was struggling, dude. It was bad. It was bad. And so you see, I think that if you build through the defensive line and then you get a quarterback, and then you build it, I think you get defensive line, offensive line, quarterback. Because if you build a good offensive line and defensive line, you can put a game manager and a quarterback, surround him with weapons, and then him just go nuts. And because you're then taking out the running game and you're taking out the opposing quarterback, you're just playing suffocating football. Because then you get average to better corners and good linebackers who can fit gaps, run sideline to sideline. You have a suffocating defensive front that takes out, I mean, literally Mahomes was taken out of the game. And it showed how valuable defensive line is in pass rushing, elite pass rushing. And I just think, I mean, of course you have to get the quarterback first if your pick is that high and there's quarterback available. If not, you focus offensive line, defensive line. And you saw what the Eagles did. You look at the Lions, right? They've got, Aiden Hutchinson. But something that's caused them to not get over the hump is the lack of, they got Aiden Hutchinson and then they just stopped, right? They should have last year gotten Dallas Turner. Or, I mean, what was the... Let's see who they took. Or when they picked. Yeah, they picked 24. They should have gone out and got a Brain Fisk or, Zaire Newton. Darius Robertson was the one that went to Arizona. No one was really there, so I guess they kind of had to take Terrion Arnold. But, I mean, I know there was someone else that they missed that was like, come on, dude, who played a lot of snaps. Yeah, Jonah Ellis, you could have put him on the edge. I believe they should have traded up to get up to, 2 spots to get a pass rusher. I mean, if they trade up at all, right, they get 3 spots. They get Miami, Chopwa Robinson. They get the Rams, Jared Verse. They get Minnesota, Dallas Turner. Seattle, Byron Murphy. I mean, that is 8 picks ahead of them. They don't have to give up too much. And then you fix the defensive line. This year, I mean, Kenneth Grant could be a thing where you plug it up the middle. But again, you don't help the pass rush. But again, you could be like, I have Zadarius Smith. We're going to roll with it. Right? And then you go 2nd round, we're going to go Wyatt Williams, 3rd round. I mean, like, who would be available potentially that back half that 3rd round? And Ashton Gigliotti, Ty Robinson, Anais Pebbles. I mean, really, most of the guys would be gone at that point. But you could, an Alfred Collins, Shamar Turner. Alfred Collins is rising, though. You could potentially just go lineman in the 3rd round and get an Anthony Belton. Right, but they don't have needed tackle. We'll break down team needs moving forward in, potential drafts that I'll do. But, I mean, again, they need, I mean, I've said this all year. The one flaw was that, it became evident when Aiden Hutchinson went down was the lack of pass rush on the opposite side. And it was evident. And they struggled. They couldn't get after the quarterback, really. They had to blitz. And you saw with the Eagles didn't blitz at all. They just went straight 4-man pass rush. And they could do that. The Lions could do that if they drafted another defensive end to put opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Or, you get, a speed rusher in the 3rd round, right? So that you could go NASCAR and just start, get a Jordan Burch or Ashton Gillotte, and then you just put him in front of the guard and send him. Jordan Burch, you put him in front of the guard, or Gillotte, you put him in front of the guard and rush him with Kenneth Grant at nose. You put Zadarius Smith at the other end and Aiden Hutchinson. But, I mean, again, if the Lions don't address defensive line, that's why I'm like, just get Myles Garrett. Because Aiden Hutchinson, Myles Garrett, and then, you go out and you draft guard, and then you bring in a D tackle. I mean, you would be causing issues all over the NFL. I mean, no one would be able to stop that defensive front. And then you add Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, I'm forgetting someone else, and them just being able to harass people, blitzing occasionally, sending one guy. You're sending 5 people, and it's over. It's over. Even if they add Trey Hendrickson, that's a great front. But I think if the Lions are closer to a Super Bowl than the Falcons, you've got to push all your chips in on Myles Garrett. That's why I think the Falcons get Trey Hendrickson, because they won't be willing to give up 4 or 5 first, and they don't have that other quarterback. Because let's be realistic, the Browns aren't taking Kirk Cousins, right? So, but yeah, that is it for today's episode. Again, we should be back in the studio Friday. This episode should be up around Wednesday, Thursday. I don't really have any homework due this week. There's a lot due over the weekend, but I should be able to knock it out. But yeah, that's all for today's episode. I'll see y'all next time.